All right, hello everybody, and welcome to today's live demo. This is Cloud Security Monitoring and Analytics with Sumo Logic. I'm James Ashburn. I'll be your host today, and you may see some things pop up in your chat that should give you some links to some things or some further information. So please feel free to post questions there in the chat as well, and I'll try to get to those either as appropriate or at the end of the session. Thanks for that. So I'm gonna stop my video so you can see just the screen itself in full. So Sumo Logic Cloud Security Monitoring and Analytics is part of the core platform that that we'll talk about today. We have multiple compliance and security based solutions at Sumo Logic. The first one, their audit and compliance, we're not really going to go into that today, but we do have several capabilities around that for helping you with your audit and compliance needs. So things like PCI, for example, we're quite good at that. Today, we're going to be looking at the second one that's in the blue box, Cloud Security Monitoring and Analytics. So this is really for monitoring, detecting, analyzing, investigating what's happening within your environments for all of the logs that you've brought in, all the security events. And we do some threat benchmarking, and we look at it from an analytic standpoint. So we can pop up some alerts from some monitoring capabilities. Could be, alerting to your help desk system or to a Slack channel or Teams group. You could send emails, whatever you need to do to get that notification. You can also just look at the dashboards themselves directly if you need to. Cloud SIEM and Cloud SOAR, those are more advanced capabilities. We're not going into those today. We do have other live demos that are tailored to those. So if you're interested in those, check our website. We have those scheduled for in the future. We bring in a lot of data. We're a cloud native machine data analytics platform where we bring in log metrics, events, traces, really anything you might need there. And we were built in the cloud, so we have this great scalable capability where we have, I think we've actually gone up from the 27 exabytes now monthly. I think it's more than that, and I think it's over the 800 petabytes analyzed daily. It's quite an amazing feat of what we're doing, and it's all because we are cloud native that we can do this. It's one single platform that does this. We are deployed locally here in the region for the Sydney deployment. We also have locations in other places around the world, such as Tokyo and India, Frankfurt, Germany, Dublin, of course, the US and Canada. But if you need global coverage from that, you can certainly use more than one environment at the same time. So there are strategies for doing that, for getting you global if you need to. It's a cloud-based consumption model as well. So it's not like the others. We don't charge per user. We don't charge per collection, collector device, or how you're architected. So those things become very easy, and we understand how that becomes complex for some organizations, especially when we talk about things like Kubernetes and Docker. Those things can grow very rapidly, change very frequently, and we're supporting how methods of collecting that's highly flexible and scalable. A lot of our competitors today, we're finding that even today in 2022, there's no cloud support, which is really kind of interesting. Why would you have a platform that doesn't include your entire makeup? Because your security is not limited to just what you control yourselves. You need to know who's getting what and where it's going. Limited visibility is what we're seeing as well from some of the other players in the industry. Those insights are usually limited in scope to a particular data source, and then also limited analytics because they're constrained by setups for CPU or memory or other considerations where they can't burst as they need to as things are happening to you. If you're in the middle of a DDoS attack, what are you going to do with that, right? How are you going to scale? We've solved that because we are cloud native. We can ingest from a huge diversity of sources, firewalls, databases, IDMs, CDN data, you name it. I haven't seen a source yet that we can't ingest and make some sense of it for purposes of security. We also give you greater increased availability. We don't charge based on users, so every security person in your organization can have a look at what you need to, and you can control that based on the access you want to grant. We'll go into a little bit of that in the product here in a bit. But we pull in not only the cloud data, but your on-premises data. So it's all combined into one space at one point. And we have security-focused analytics. So we do other things as well, because we believe that once you ingest your logs, you should be able to use them for any purpose you need, whether that's observability or operations or development. But we have security-specific focused items around how do you analyze and monitor your security profile? What's your position? So how do you investigate and respond? As I mentioned, data sources can really be anything: on-premises, multi-cloud, SaaS platforms, other external apps and products, really whatever you want. We really aim it into the platform. We ingest it, whether that's installed collectors that are in the environment or they're hosted collectors in our cloud. They just give you the ability to look at any security issues that are coming up. You can look at them through dashboarding and alerting, but also you can analyze that and dig right down into the log level to see exactly what's going on, to understand from that particular data type what was really happening. So you can see exactly where everything happened. And our granularity allows us to get down to these type of entities that you see across. So you can look at devices, you can look at IPs, you can look at them all together, whether it's networks or databases. It really gives you the granularity you need to be able to perform your security functions. This is a screenshot of one of the dashboards. We'll go into this a bit later, but it allows you to see at one go really across several things. As you can see in here, you're looking at AWS guard duty, things sent across by S3 buckets, basic network traffic and data exfiltration information, as well as locations of user activity and what's happening there. So kind of to summarize, we talked about core out of the box content that we have. We have apps, we have queries, we have alerts and monitors, things that you can use directly from day one as you're bringing in all of the data itself. We have the ability to use subqueries to return information to the main query, lookup tables where you can import your own data, so you can have specific items that you wanted to incorporate into your security queries that are from external sources that you may need. Also built-in feeds to provide context for things like geo lookup and CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike threat intel is provided as a service in here as well. There's a built-in threat feed and an app for that. We can go into that if some of you want to see that. We can get right down to the raw searching of the logs, right? So you can see each log message as it originally came in. It is locked in and you can't change that log message. And but you can parse it and you can see exactly what's going on. You can parameterize it and you can make customizable searches around that to do whatever you need to. We can also take some actions, even with just the base product and not using the SOAR capability. So we can do things like script actions, or we can call Lambda functions. So if you do need to take actions within an environment, we can do that. So maybe you want to block an IP or something of that nature. And you can always write custom queries and perform complex operations if you want to. So there's simple stuff and there's some complex stuff. I'll go through some of this in the demo itself. We'll talk about outlier and a few other things that are relevant in this area. And then we also have something called field extraction rules, which means that as the data is ingested, we can parse it then and populate these fields. We can also parse these at the time of the query. So some platforms only allow you to do one or the other. With Sumo Logic, we have the ability to do both, and that helps facilitate things like normalization if you want to work with your platform in a different way, with the data in a different way. You're able to prioritize threats here. You know, we've kind of gone back and scrolled down the screenshot from before here. The tool here allows you to visualize and call out things that are happening in the environment. You can see several peaks there in the middle area where it says VPC flow data volume, and you can see the outliers with the pink triangles there. We'll go into a little bit more of that in detail here in a minute. And then we can also jump down all the way into the actual events that are going on. So what we're looking at here is a screenshot of the query in the upper area. And I'll explain one of these a bit later. So this is a pretty simple query up top where things are getting broken out and we're looking for specific items, but we can see that in the aggregate here and how this maps out. There's also, beside this aggregate tab, is a messages tab, and I'll show that as well, where we can see the raw log messages. And then you can analyze user activity with doing this type of stuff, right? So whether you want light mode or dark mode, if you want to look at geolocation information, or you want to look at specifically what users are doing within the environment, it's pretty easy to pinpoint some unexpected things that pop up. And how do we actually work with, accelerate the response? So being able to get to a resolution very quickly is critical, and especially in a security security response, because you do want to lock things down and make sure things are secure and nothing is being exfiltrated, no data is leaving. So we'll jump into the demo here, and I've got what I might do is go quickly through sort of an architecture slide of how we collect the data. So we have installed collectors here on the left, and we have hosted collectors on the right. Installed collectors are, this little blue box that says Sumo here. They're sitting on an endpoint and they're gathering data to send to Sumo Logic, or they're sitting on a server and reaching out for remote collection into other systems or through a syslog, or they may be sitting in a Docker or Kubernetes container and they're sending data back, and that would be FluentD, FluentBit, Prometheus, Telegraph, OpenTelemetry, that type of thing. So we support all of these different capabilities from an installed collector perspective. And this is not comprehensive, really. This is an example set for just discussion purposes here. So we collect far more than this. Hosted collectors actually live here in the Sumo Logic Cloud, kind of at the tip of this arrow. They reach out to AWS, Azure, GCP, or others, bring that data back in for ingestion. So that's kind of a pull method instead of the push method on the left. We can tie in with your CDNs, with your security systems, with your MFAs and SSOs, with your SaaS platforms, whatever we need to tie into to pull these back. So, and do feel free to pop questions into the chat if you want to know what's anything specific in here. This is the dashboard we were looking at a bit before. This is the security view that I was showing you. So we're seeing here, SSO and non-SSO login locations. So one of the things we can do is zoom into this to see what's going on. For example, if we zoom in here in the US, you can see, it breaks out into geolocations. If it doesn't have a specific location, like a few of these here, it puts it to the geographical center of the country. If you do this in Japan, it'll take you to, I think, the Emperor's Palace here in Japan. So you could see what's going on, where people are logging in, and if maybe you see some activity in Egypt, and you don't normally have somebody in Egypt, then something's up, and you might want to investigate, for example. Very easy to navigate through that and use that. And I'm just using my mouse to scroll in and out of it. We have the threat intel feed, and we can see we actually have one high one coming through right now. We'll be investigating that a bit later. But we can see that the threat intel feed is showing us something's going on with an IP address. We can also look at suspicious login distances. So doing a calculation to know what's the distance between these two within a time frame to see if there's some sort of impossible speed violation, like how did somebody get from the US to Egypt to log in, or why was that happening? Here are the IPs involved. And you can see these get popped up very quickly, and we can drill down by simply clicking on an icon here that it will show it in the search itself that I showed in one of the slides earlier. So we'll do that here in a bit. But we can look at network traffic and data exfiltration to see what's going on, data volume sent by host, traffic types here, bytes received versus bytes sent. Not a lot sent is what's looking at here. Traffic volume outliers. Now this is a function that we use that I really like, because an outlier looks at a curve, and you can see that it's the gray line through here, and then there's this brown shaded area on either side of it. And what happens is we're calculating a number of standard deviations over a certain number of data points to understand what's normal here. And if there's a value that falls outside of that range, we can create an alert for that. So we can send a notification somewhere like Slack, like Jira, ticketing app, wherever you really want it to go, to email, whatever. And we can investigate what's actually happening. We can see 4 different ones here. And if I wanted to drill into those, that's pretty easy to do. I can alert in the positive direction or negative direction. So it's always good to know if something's failing or not, right? Or if it's hitting some peaks. This data is all dependent upon being able to collect it. And collection, the collector tab here really shows us what's going on. We can see that we have data that's coming in across, for example, AWS observability here. What I might do is actually search for the security data that's coming in. I could filter here to really see exactly what I've had dropping into my system and how I might actually want to go investigate it. So I can do that by clicking on one of the pop-ups here to really drill down specifically into those sources if I wanted to look at one in particular. One of the things we do here is we tag our data with something called source category. This is just a metadata tag that we add to the data stream so that we can segregate it. If you think of it as sort of a file folder structure, it kind of helps because it lets you know, it lets you do a few things. One of those is permissions and controlling access. But this is our collector at this level. And then these are sources that one collector is looking at. So one collector can go look at multiple sources and bring that data back and categorize it in different ways. That allows us to, well, as I mentioned, allows us to control access. For example, if I looked at, say, this DevOps team here, that source category, you can see that what I've done here is I've allowed access to things that are in prod, dev, stage. If it has to do with Linux or Kubernetes, they can see it. Anybody in this group, and currently this has no users here, but I can add users to this group. It does not give them access to security-based data. So it keeps that segregated and differentiated. So they're not able to get to things that you keep them out of. It only allows this. So it's pretty easy to segregate that. The app catalog is how we get to some of these dashboards. So this that we saw in the security view, this is a dashboard. And each one of these items here is a panel. And within the app catalog, we have apps, for example, CloudTrail, that hold multiple dashboards and queries and alerts. And you can always click on these to figure out what's in them, right? So here's AWS Security Hub. So you can see from, there's a compliance one, there's overview, there's resources affected, there's security hub types. If I wanted to add this to my environment, there's no charge for this. I just click add to library, and I tag it, and I direct it to the correct data tag, right? So it could be anything here, including, if I wanted to tag it to more than one area, I can simply replace part of it with an asterisk, and now everything downstream is picked up. And that's why I say I look at this as sort of a file folder system, because it kind of makes sense that way. Because if I sub in, that's easy. I can also go more advanced here and look at other metadata fields if I wanted to really direct this where I need it. And I can install more than one copy of this. So I could have one of the apps targeted to dev data and another targeted to production data, for example. What I might do now is I might jump over here to Slack because what I want to show is that I have in a demo system, I have a SecOps high priority channel set up, and we have some, alerts going there. In this case, we have a Trojan detection that came in. So what that lets us know is, we've got this this instance of traffic occurring between these two IPs. I might actually grab that IP because I'm going to go investigate it here in a minute. But then, it's a single IP failed authentication attempts associated with snort-defined Trojan detection, and it has high malicious confidence score from CrowdStrike. So this is probably the same one we saw earlier in the other dashboard. But I could do things directly from here, like quarantine a host. Now, I'm not going to do that right now because this is a demo environment, and somebody else could be demonstrating this, and that might cause a problem. But I can take any action I want to by creating a button here that would call a script or a Lambda or something of that nature. But I can also go straight to the SecOps dashboard. I actually just have that open right here, actually. So it will launch me right into here. So now I can investigate. So we can see that this is where we're probably looking at this. And, we can see there's some CPU network host activity that's gone up. So it's quite high right here. And we can see there the IP address is the same as what we're looking at before. We can investigate things from the map and zooming in and looking at what's going on. Here are the authentication attempts, and we have a nice outlier here of 28 attempts. That's probably the one we're looking at. We can see threat intel, indicators of compromise based on severity. So I can see I've got several high ones. We even have some that are unverified I might want to go through and look at, but the high ones I definitely want to pay attention to. Threat breakdown by source. We can see that there's a few items in here we might want to take a look at. As we scroll down the page, IP anomalies for ranges, scanned events, outliers. We're seeing data exfiltration, and oddly enough, we're seeing this MySQL database, which theoretically here, we know this contains PII, for example, and it probably shouldn't be here. And we can see that MySQL database is it didn't have 7 days ago it wasn't really sending out data. It's sending out data now, so that's an issue that we should be alerted to. And then here we actually have known IOCs, and in this case we can see that we're looking at the same source destination IPs, as well as we can see that this brought to us by CrowdStrike Threat Intel. This is a high confidence right here. The malicious confidence is high. That it's actually coming from an actor known as Fancy Bear, which is a Russian state actor. So this is something we definitely want to go investigate. So I'm actually going to go back up at this point and investigate what's going on. And I'm going to do that through here because we do see that this outlier violation is occurring here as well. And if I click into this, it'll pop a new window open with that specific query already populated for me. You see the same graph. If I wanted to modify this, I could, and I can actually add this to another dashboard. It's another great capability here because I can copy and reuse these in any fashion that I need to create my own dashboard, however I wanted to, or I can modify this. You'll see that this is actually looking at some source data, and it's looking for the words authentication or failure. And let me reload that because I just moved something. Live demos are fun. So you get this authentication failure or failed SU. So we're looking and filtering based on those, and we're taking the data and parsing it so that we can see what's going on with it. Now, this is the parsing within the statement, and we do this when we deploy these dashboards because we want every user to be able to do this automatically with deploying it without having to use field extraction rules if we don't want to. If we remove this, it's probably we'd want to be using this as a field extraction rule so that our query winds up just really being this small amount. And really, we're just looking at counting attempts and looking at the outlier function for that, and then showing the violations for it. So that's the data in aggregate. If we look at this from a messages standpoint, we can see the raw messages related to it. We can even see from a source IP everything that's going on here. And this is our actor that we saw before, right? So if you remember from earlier, that's the guy. If I click on that, it will actually modify the query for me and show me just those instances where this occurred. So I've got those 50 items here, right? There's 50 results here, and I can look at all 50. But I actually want to do something a little bit more. I'm going to modify my query. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to delete all of this. I'm going to really simplify it. And now I'm going to search. What I'm doing here is I'm looking across these two data sets to see every time this IP address popped up. So when I do that, I should get more results here. And I get 418. I get 17 pages. And I really don't want to go through that on my own. If I did, if I wanted to, I could add fields here like destination IP. I can look at the action that's being taken here. I could look at the timestamps, anything really, any other field that's automatically brought out here. These are the source IPs that were being looked at with it. So these are all going to show me what's happening. And most of the time, these are blank. There's no value. But what I want to do is really understand what this actor was up to. So I'm going to use a function called log reduce. Now, log reduce is running the same query, looking at every log line, trying to figure out what's happening overall, and it will create something called a signature line based on that. And that signature will tell me all the information about it. For example, here we have this row occurred 100 times. It looks like this, and the variables have been replaced by asterisks here. So we can see that these are, this is probably not something I'm too terribly interested in. You can also split these out to say, I want to see more detail on these, like this one that I just did with these two. And I can actually see that there's an outbound Trojan beacon. The Trojan was detected here. And I can see that this actor actually got in, so because it's accepting the public key for root from here. So this is an issue that now I could go take action. I could do whatever I need to actually address the situation. Furthermore, what I might want to do is actually do a compare here. Log compare runs two sets of log reduce queries. It runs one on the original target query, which is what we have here, but you can change the query, right? So you can look at another data set. You can compare, say, production to test, or test to dev, or something of that nature. But I can also do a time shift to look at it from prior functions to see what's going on. So maybe 7 days ago, I want to run it against that to see what's different, what's changed. Are these logs new? Do I have log messages that are gone from before, that were there before? In this case, actually, all of these are actually new. So we can actually see that these new log messages are coming in. And if I wanted to, I could actually run this as a scheduled search anytime I want to. I can run a save as here. Say maybe, new log entry alert. And I can pop this in my personal folder, and I can schedule this to run. And I might want to run it, I don't know, every 15 minutes. Could run it real time. I might want to look at the last 15 minutes of data, right? There's the time range. Every 15 minutes, look at the last 15 minutes of data and see if I get any kind of a result. If I get an alert condition where, I get some positive number of results back, then I can send an alert. And that might be an email. I might take a script action. I might want to automate something here. I might want to send it through a webhook, save it to an index, a lookup, ServiceNow connection, whatever I want to here. And then this connection for a webhook, I have really anything I want to pick from here. These are already pre-set up, right? So if I set up, say, let's say it's Teams. This is the payload, and if I need to modify that payload, I can click on the customized payload, and I can make that specific to this particular alert that I want to bring over. And I'm not going to do that because it'll start sending alerts on a regular basis, and I don't really do that. So good time for questions if anybody has any. Might show quickly that these connections for these alerts. We have several that are out of the box here. And sometimes the out-of-the-box ones don't cover everything you need. Maybe the one for Slack, for example, you've got a different Slack template, or maybe actually what might be a better example is Jira, because you can set up templates for how you want to create tickets in Jira. And maybe that, maybe this particular payload isn't working for you. So you would have your own payload, right? And that payload is, you might want to use just a generic one. You can go create whatever you want. I've done this for the bespoke systems before. It's fast, it's easy. It starts working as soon as you set it up. So just paste in the content you need and save it, and you're good to go. Any questions in the chat? I haven't seen anything yet. All right, if there are no questions, then I think that's everything. Then thanks for your time today. Appreciate you joining us. Feel free to reach out to us. You can always try out the system if you want to. I'll share my screen here again, because one of the things you can do. Is if you just go to the Sumo Logic homepage, there's a start free trial. Just put in your business email. It will filter out some emails on here, so things like AOL may not work. I haven't tried AOL, but if it doesn't work, that's probably the reason why. Is you have an email that's being filtered. And you can set your destination, your deployment region here of anything here: US, Canada, Ireland, Frankfurt, Mumbai, Sydney, Tokyo. Just click on the agree to service license agreement and sign up, and it'll spool up a trial environment for you, giving you 30 days with a gig of ingest per day, I think. And you can try out the different dashboards that I showed there, the different apps. You'd be able to, do what you want there. That's really everything, guys. Thank you very much for your time today. I appreciate it, and look forward to talking to you in the future. Thanks.